Something is a little bit off here. Turns out to be a deadly mistake. Jabs a small shovel into the side of Alex's face. Let's see how many of them perish on our adventure today. Welcome back to the Nonstop Horror YouTube channel. Today we are talking about influencer horror. You know, those snaky little influencers on Instagram and YouTube with millions of followers who are always trying to sell you something and acting like life's all peachy. Well, today we're gonna watch some of them meet their well-deserved demise. We do this and a lot more here on this channel, so if you love Halloween and enjoy celebrating horror all year long, make sure to subscribe and like this video. We're talking about 4 of these horror movies today. Now, what definitions we talking here? What makes a film an influencer horror? How many times am I gonna say influencer in this video? It's really self-explanatory. I'm counting films that include social media as like a major plot point, or the main character or main characters are social media influencers, and yeah, I think those are really the only 2 criteria we need here. It just needs to be obvious that social media is part of the plot. Of these 4 films, a couple of them take themselves pretty seriously, but the other 2 are just fun. We're going to be recapping these films and talking about the deaths in each one along the way. It's going to be a good time, so make sure to cozy on up and stay a while. Here is our influencer death counter. Let's see how many of them perish on our adventure today. By the way, we are just swimming in spoilers today, spooksters. But let me tell you, this collection of movies is worth checking out on your own, even after learning what I discuss in this video. Let's get to film number 1, aptly named, say it with me, Influencer. Influencer came out in 2022, and it's about a travel influencer named Madison, who is traveling to Thailand by herself because her boyfriend ditched her. While she's there, she meets a new friend named CW, who shows her around to some local spots. Right away, something that they just shove in our faces is how miserable influencers are between takes. Like every single time she takes a photo for Instagram, like a second later, she just looks like she's having the worst time of her life. Kicking it off with some great commentary on the pressures of social media. After a few nights on the town, CW takes Madison to this remote deserted island and basically tells her that she's gonna leave her there to die. I guess Madison doesn't really believe her, so she doesn't really think much of it, but in the morning that's exactly what happens. CW heads out and leaves Madison there to die. I totally forgot that the title card for this movie doesn't happen until 26 minutes in after CW leaves Madison on the island. I don't know why that always gets me. I just really dig when title cards happen so far into the movie. So CW gets back to the mainland and takes over Madison's social media account and starts living the life of an influencer. She's using like Photoshop and some other video software to make fake content that looks like it has Madison in it. And to make sure that the followers don't really think anything is wrong, she makes a post saying that she's gonna take a break from posting for a little bit. Side note, do you see this house that they're staying in? Like, I want to visit there so badly. This is such a gorgeous spot. So I'm not sure why this happens. I don't know if CW got bored with the influencer lifestyle, or she does this a lot, or she's just uncovered this hidden passion of hers to take on the life of travel influencers. But about 3 or 4 weeks after she does this to Madison, she finds another travel influencer, Jessica, to do the same exact thing too. However, a wrench is thrown in her plans this time because Ryan, the boyfriend of Madison, the first girl who's now trapped on a deserted island, he shows up to surprise her, but to his dismay, Madison is nowhere to be found. Together, Ryan and Jessica start piecing things together and realize that something is a little bit off here, and CW doesn't really seem to be telling them the truth. One night, Jessica tries to sneakily leave, but it turns out to be a deadly mistake. Initially, I thought to myself, why doesn't CW just let Jessica leave? Like, that's one less person to worry about. Like, do you really think she's gonna poke and pry? But she does try messaging Madison's Instagram account saying that some weird things are happening to her like they did to Madison. But then shortly after, she kind of shows some incompetence and that she doesn't really exactly know what's going on. So there's a confrontation between CW and Jessica just keeps pushing CW's buttons, and as a result, she gets her head bashed in and a heel through the throat. Let's check it out.
They never do.
For the next 30 minutes, we watch CW manipulate Ryan in a few different ways, including making him think that they had sex one night, and also posting a fake photo, making Ryan think that Madison has a new bae. If you want a horror movie where a character makes all the right decisions and doesn't just play dumb, this is it. Ryan does some impressive detective work to find out that CW is responsible for Madison's disappearance, and he confronts her about it. CW promises to take Ryan to Madison, but unfortunately they have an altercation at the boat docks and she ends up strangling him under the water. Now, the saddest part of this movie, after Ryan's death, CW posts as Madison saying that Ryan was abusing her and that he's a predator and all this horrible shit, and her followers are just eating it up. What a terrible fate. She travels back to the deserted island to dump Ryan's body, and plot twist, Madison is still alive. She sneaks up behind CW and incapacitates her and escapes. Yeah, I was shocked too. I don't know how Madison survived that long on the island. Maybe it was because it was monsoon season, so she had water so she didn't die of thirst. She also mentioned earlier on in the film that she was a Girl Scout, so maybe she put those skills to use. We're not exactly sure, but I don't think we need the intricate details here. The closing shot is Madison sailing away on this little boat as CW watches her in the distance, and this might be sequel bait, although you would think that the logical next steps would be Madison gets back to the mainland and brings back the authorities to get CW, and she goes to prison for all of her wrongdoings. So I'm not exactly sure what a sequel would even look like. Overall, Influencer is an okay film that lacks any deeper exploration of the troubles that social media presses upon our lives. I do think it's ironic that the villain's name is CW because the writing and the acting do feel like something you would get on the CW. The movie takes a lot of turns on a few fronts. For one, CW is showing that she doesn't think that influencers are really worth much, and that's why she's doing this, but then she kind of proves that she's just as hollow as all of them. Also, the movie did a pretty good job of convincing me to root for a different character at different points in the movie. You really end up rooting for each of the four main characters at separate times. One plot hole that remains in my head is that the first night when Madison's room got broken into, I'm not sure if CW had someone helping her, because I'm pretty sure CW was with Madison that whole night, but Madison's passport still got stolen and her room broken into, so maybe there was just like a coincidence that sparked this, or CW had an accomplice to help. I'm leaning more towards like the coincidence part. I think that is a funner twist on it. Influencer isn't my favorite film on this list, but it is worth at least one viewing. You can go stream it on Shudder right now if you want to watch it. When you hit play on Sissy, it's kind of hard to know what kind of movie you're watching. It opens up as this like Disney Channel original or straight to TV rom-com. Sissy is a horror thriller. It's about a successful social media influencer who is invited out to the bachelorette party of this childhood friend who she had a really big falling out from when she was younger, you know, just kid things. But I don't know about you, that would be a big nope for me. When they run into each other, they do that whole trope where Sissy is trying to tell Emma that Cecilia is the name that she prefers now, but Emma keeps calling her Sissy. Like, at a certain point, you just gotta slap a hoe. Fun fact, the childhood friend directed the movie. Obviously the grown-up adult version. This movie was not directed by a 10-year-old, but I believe the director's name is Hannah Barlow. So there are about 5 or 6 of these friends that are heading out to this house for the bachelorette party. On the way, they accidentally hit this kangaroo, so fair warning, this kangaroo does die, so if you have a thing about animals dying in film, there's your warning right there. And this whole thing circles back around later on in the movie. I'll explain later. And on the way, Cecilia finds out that Alex, her childhood bully, is also going to be at this bachelorette party. And it is very clear that they do not like each other. We don't really find out until later on why, but it's clear that they're butting heads and they just don't get along. So the next morning, they all go and chill down by the creek without Cecilia, but luckily Emma leaves her a little map that shows her how to get there. So Cecilia heads down to the creek to go find them all, and of course on the way down she starts overhearing them talking about her, and it's nothing nice. Alex is talking a lot of trash about Cecilia and turning the other friends against Cecilia, and so Emma gets really mad and storms off, leaving Alex by herself. So Cecilia enters the area and there's a confrontation between her and Alex, the one that doesn't like her. Now at this point we don't really know the childhood incident that happened between these two, but Alex wants Cecilia, to admit to her followers what she did to her. So Alex is like recording this confession with Cecilia's phone that she stole and starts to upload the video, but then a fight ensues as Cecilia tries to get her phone back. Cecilia ends up bashing Alex over the head with a rock, and then we're fed the flashback to what happened when they were kids. Now apparently Cecilia and Emma were really good friends to the point where they had like friendship pacts and were saying that they're going to be in the same nursing homes together and all that sappy good stuff. However, one day Alex butted her head into the friendship and said that Emma doesn't really like Cecilia and that Emma wasn't inviting her to her birthday party, which was all true, so that's very sad for Cecilia. But Alex keeps taunting Cecilia and bullying her all the way to the point where Cecilia jabs a small shovel into the side of Alex's face. So yeah, it's very clear why these two don't like each other. And apparently Alex didn't learn her lesson as she's still continually bullying Cecilia on this little getaway, and she dies because of it. Maybe. So Cecilia just like nonchalantly digs up a grave for Alex's body. It's only like 2 or 3 feet deep, so not a great grave at all. So there's one guy in the group, he's dating the Asian chick. Sorry guys, I'm bad with names. And he's super high and goes for a walk to take a piss and stumbles upon the grave that Cecilia dug for Alex. He doesn't know it's a grave yet, but he starts pissing on it and then is confronted by Cecilia. They have this like really weird, awkward confrontation, and then he trips and falls on the grave and realizes that Alex's body is under there. He tries running away, but he's got like this little gimp, so he doesn't really get very far, but he does find the edge of a cliff. He's been bad-mouthing Cecilia this whole time with Alex, but at this point he just tries saving face, saying that he's on her side and they can just talk about the issues and solve whatever is going on. And then Sissy just kind of pushes him off of the cliff in one of the more comical deaths we're going to be talking about today. Let's cut to a clip. Also, we're showing that like Emma falls into the creek when she's looking for Cecilia or Alex. She's doing something and she just like falls into the river in the background. So that's where she is at this point. Back at the house, Tracy is watching some TV and Cecilia shows up and like harms herself to get Tracy's attention, and Tracy, being the good friend she is, draws her a bath to help her make her feel better. I would also love to point out that one of the companies that sponsors Cecilia is called Elon Mask. They're like a face mask company, and that is just the funniest thing I've heard all year. Great work from the meme department. While they're in the bathroom, they start arguing because Tracy reveals that she knows what happened between Cecilia and Alex when they were younger, and then Cecilia just thinks that she doesn't believe her and that she's judging her. Gets very insecure, so they start arguing. And there's this moment where Sissy like stands up in the bathtub and she's got this face mask on, and it's just an oddly terrifying moment. But then they fight and Tracy ends up dying because her hair gets caught in the drain plug of the bathtub, and so she ends up drowning slash scalping herself. I just want to know how real that is and how likely that would actually happen. So we tested it out here in the studio. Cut to a clip. So Cecilia starts driving away but runs into Emma's fiance. I think her name was Fern. Is it Fern? I don't know if it's Fern. It might be Fern. They're driving, and again, Sissy is just super insecure at this point and doesn't believe that Fern likes her and whatnot. So she's just like speeding in the car, and Fern is trying to tell her to slow down, that it's not safe, and she can't get her seatbelt on. And then Cecilia slams on the brakes, launching Fern through the windshield. And here's where we get the fun little callback to earlier when she hit the kangaroo and they double tapped the shit out of it. Fern is like crawling on the ground, and Cecilia decides to drive over her head to put her out of her misery. And this isn't an off-camera kill. They show the dang thing. It's gonna be blurred here, but I highly suggest going to watch this scene. Such a stupid sound effect. Turns out Alex isn't dead, and there's this fun little segment where it's the middle of the night and there's a fog rolling in and just the lighting is very creepy, and Alex just rises from the dead and she's suffering from all this head trauma. She's got her eyes like all bloody. So she's like crawling around and she finds Emma's phone and she tries calling the police, but because of her head wound, she can't really talk. At first the cop thinks it's a prank call, but eventually they trace the call and they head on out to see what's going on over there. Back at the house, Cecilia beats herself up with her phone. That feels so dumb to say. And then she starts a live stream telling her followers that Alex has been killing everyone and is trying to find her. Emma makes it back to the house and finds Tracy's body underneath a bed and confronts Cecilia about it. And she also sees that Cecilia stole Alex's necklace. It was like a best friend necklace, like rookie move. She accidentally like trips over a rug or a towel or something and is like knocked out. And so Sissy ties her up and has this hope of rekindling their friendship at this point, which I think there's not much that's salvageable there. Now apparently Sissy didn't do a really good job tying Emma up, because Emma gets free and starts fighting back with Cecilia. And to the rescue, head wound and all, comes Alex, and she just starts to swing in. She has the dude from earlier, his crutch, you know, the one that is handicapped, and she just starts swinging away. And I guess her vision is messed up because of her head wound. And she slowly realizes it wasn't Sissy that she just turned into a mash. And so she raises up the crutch like she's gonna hit Cecilia, and she gets shot by that cop that she called earlier. Made it to the house to save the day, and he thinks that she was the instigator the whole time. So Sissy gets away with it. Fabulous twist to the movie. Moral of the story, don't be a bully. And also, you can stand up for yourself, just don't go around killing people. It's still a no-no. Overall, Sissy was an interesting idea, and some of the kills are fun. Don't think there's a lot of rewatchability here, but it is fun on a first-time watch. I've never really heard many people talking about this, so it's definitely an underrated gem, and you can go stream it on Shudder right now. I'd be interested to hear from you guys. From the first two, which one would you rather watch? Which one sounds or looks better so far? Let me know down in the comments. We still got 2 more films. Hope you're still with us. Funhouse is a Swedish-Canadian horror film that came out in 2019, and it stars someone from a famous acting family. Go on, tell me you can't guess that guy's last name just by looking at him. I literally laughed out loud when I was reminded that this film opens up with Moonlight Sonata, and the villain also plays it on the piano. Later on, it just gave me a little PTSD flashbacks to Strangers Chapter 1. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch my review of it instead of watching it. It's a good time. Funhouse is about 8 C-list celebrities who are invited to compete on this reality game show called Fergus's House of Fun. It's basically real world, if you have any idea of what that is, and it's basically a popularity contest. It's being broadcast to the entire world, and every few days the people vote on who they like the best, and if you get the least amount of votes, you've got to compete in these challenges. It turns out these challenges are a little bit more deadly than the contestants anticipated. But now the contestants are stuck here fighting for their survival and a cash prize of 5 million buckaroons. They definitely made sure to diversify when they were finding these influencers. There's a blogger, there's a fighter, there's a couple reality TV show people, a YouTuber, one that's just a hot blonde maybe. I think I covered all of them. The creator of the TV show is this billionaire entrepreneur who thinks that scientists and engineers and physicists and inventors should be the rich and the famous and not these social media influencers, which bro's got a point. The comedic relief in this film comes in the form of these goofy news segments hosted by a guy named Pete Sake that, yes, they're supposed to be cringy, but I felt them to be quite amusing, and they were a nice break from the seriousness of the reality TV segments. One thing this movie does really well is it has some pretty creative and fun kills, and we're going to talk about all of them right now to illustrate my point. Nevin dies first. He's the YouTuber. Another contestant is kind of tricked into beating him to death with a bat. This would be so messed up. They make her think that she's just going to be hitting a piñata, and they have her they have these blackout glasses on, and so she can't see anything, and the music is really loud so she can't hear him screaming or anything, and she just goes to town on his body thinking it's a piñata. Brutal. Oh yeah, the host of this TV show his name is Fergus, as I mentioned, but he's an animated bear, panda bear, which is really great. It's just the villain behind the scenes. He's in this motion capture configuration, and he's kind of controlling it. And so in the TV show, in the house, they only see this screen with this animated panda bear on it. But anyway, Fergus repeatedly tells them that if they try to escape, there will be deadly consequences, and this one contestant named Al Shocker decides to test those waters and dies because of it. They basically dip him in this vat of flesh-eating acid. Jimena is the third to die. She and Ula are tasked with battling each other with these axes in the pitch dark. And yeah, it's a really fun little sequence where they're basically fighting in night vision. They can't see anything, but that's how we can see them. And eventually Ula splits her head open with the axe. Ula dies fourth. She's the little pretty blonde, and she did really well the first few rounds of voting because she was pretty revealing with her body, but soon falls down in popularity and eventually is voted last place. Her challenge is to play a jumbo version of Memory where she has to match pictures of herself. She doesn't exactly do it in time, so then she gets to spin the Wheel of Fun, which determines how you die. Her spin lands on the rack, which is a device where all of your limbs are tied to it, and you're basically stretched until you are ripped apart. Ouch. Headstone is the Irish fighter dude, and he dies fifth, and I was honestly kind of rooting for him just because of his charisma and his acting, and he was kind of some of the comedic relief as well. So I'm rooting for him, and in this challenge we kind of learn that the rules don't really mean anything because he's tasked with fighting one of 4 fighters, and if he wins he gets to stay, and they're fighting to the death, so if he loses he's just dead. He ends up winning the fight, but then Fergus says that he has to fight the other 3 fighters at the same time as well, and eventually he just succumbs to his wounds. So it basically makes it impossible for him to win his challenge. Lonnie and Casper are the last ones to die, and they're forced to have a pistol duel with each other, but instead of shooting each other, they decide to turn the guns on themselves, giving themselves a little Romeo and Juliet moment. Throughout the film, the villain kept kind of quoting Romeo and Juliet, which it obviously comes to a head here with this final kill, but I don't know, it just felt very edgelord, and it just added to his creepiness. I'm sure more than once at this point you've wondered to yourself, Why are they broadcasting this to the whole world, and why haven't they stopped it? Well, the villain thought of that. He's using something called onion routing to hide his IP address, and so they can't really find the server where it's being hosted, and they can't shut it down. At one point they think they found it. I think it's in like Nebraska or Kansas, or I don't know, one of those fan favorite states. But it ends up just being this big metal box with like a server in it and all the contestants' heads in it. I wonder if that was supposed to be like a nod to Seven, maybe? So this whole time, there's been a contestant who is a little more quiet than the others, doesn't really say much, we don't know a whole lot about her. Kind of sus, makes you think that she might be in on it. Plot twist, she was. We're presented with the fact that she wins and gets all the money and escapes, and then the movie closes with her arriving at the villain's house and them talking about what they're gonna do next time. Like he won't win at chess or whatever, and then they start making out and they just give a little look at the camera, breaking the fourth wall for a second. It's a kind of cringy ending if you ask me, but oh well. Overall, I get the message that they were trying to get across in this one with the villain not really liking social media influencers. We all get it, but in this one, you're definitely rooting for the influencers and hoping they escape somehow. There's no winners in this one. It's a bleak ending. Some reviews online have said that this is like a poor man's Saw, or that it should have been a Black Mirror episode. I disagree with the Saw comparison, but I can get on board with the Black Mirror thing, which in my opinion is all the more reason to give it a watch. At the time of recording this video, it is on Hulu if you want to go check it out. Alright friends, I saved the best for last. Deadstream is one of those movies that once you watch it, you just want to tell everybody you know about it. It's an extreme satire and funny as hell, and there are definitely some spooky parts to it. And it's done in my personal favorite style of horror, found footage. Deadstream is about a live streamer named Sean who does these like crazy, wild, stupid stunts. One of his stunts gets him canceled, and this is his comeback live stream. For his comeback, he decides to do an overnight live stream in a haunted house called Death Manor. The platform that they use in the movie is called Livid, but it's basically Twitch or YouTube Live. Deadstream came out in 2022, and it's written and directed by Joseph and Vanessa Winter. Joseph Winter also plays the main character, Sean. Does a fabulous job, by the way. I think he absolutely carries the film, and the Winters also did a segment on VHS 99 where Joseph, again, played one of the main characters. This movie makes fun of YouTubers, yes, I see the irony, and live streamers in like the perfect way. From Sean's over-the-top antics and his interactions with his live chatters,
I'm an atheist, I don't believe in ghosts. Oh, good for you, Kombucha.
to the merch plugs at the beginning of the film.
Stuff. I don't care about money. I care about you.
This was obviously done by someone who loves and honors horror, but who also understands the live streaming landscape of our time. We spend the first 30 minutes of the film with Sean as he explores this haunted house. It kind of gives us some backstory as to why it's haunted and what exactly he's looking for. He has removed the spark plugs from his truck so that he can't escape, and he's also locked himself inside of the house. What could go wrong? Also, as a deal to his sponsors and his fans, he has to investigate any suspicious noises or activities that happen while he's there. Apparently, there's only one room in this house that hasn't experienced any sort of paranormal activity, and so he establishes that as his safe base and he sets up his laptop there. However, he searches the closet and finds a plaque with a mysterious symbol on it and realizes he may not be as safe as he thought. So he goes exploring more in the house and starts hearing some really creepy sounds, so he runs back to his base and accidentally steps on that plaque and destroys it, and then right after that we realize that he's not alone. At this point we meet Chrissy, who scares the piss out of Sean, claims that she's a fan of the channel, claims that she's left hundreds of comments, claims that she traveled out to this remote location just to meet him. Not suspicious at all. Chrissy is played by Melanie Stone, who stars with Joseph Winter in that VHS 99 segment. Just full of fun facts today. Sean wants Chrissy to leave, but his followers convince him to let her stay, and so they start exploring further in the house together. They mysteriously find a hidden room with the belongings of one of the ghosts, and then soon after they start playing with a Ouija board. In one of the dumbest decisions made in this whole movie, Sean decides to recite Latin words that Chrissy is making him say. She's just saying that it's gonna put the spirits to rest, but we all know that that's not the case. It doesn't take long after that to realize that Chrissy isn't who she said she is, and she bites Sean in the neck, and then a fight breaks out between the two, and it ends with him stabbing her in the neck with a broken piece of wood. Sean proceeds to hide and is informed by one of his fans that the plaque that he broke earlier is probably the reason that the evil spirits were at bay, and now that he destroyed it, he's probably SOL. Sean heads back to where Chrissy's body should be, and it's gone, and at this point it basically turns into an escape the house extravaganza. Sean desperately tries, with the help of his fans, to put the spirit at rest and escape in one piece. He absolutely refuses to jump out of any of the windows in the house until this hilarious and terrifying moment right here.
Guilty!
An evil spirit demon biting at my crotch might be the final straw for me too. So Sean jumps out of the window and heads to his car, and he encounters this demon masquerading as a cop, and eventually blasts him with a potato gun using a bobblehead of himself as the ammo. Pretty wicked kill if you ask me. Also, while he's hiding from that undead monstrosity, he gets another video from a fan saying that he basically has to recreate that Hamsa symbol, which is what was keeping the evil spirits at bay. Feeling hopeless and defeated, Sean realizes that in his hands he has the ritual that the ghost performed to sell her soul to the devil, and decides that instead of recreating that plaque and that symbol to ward off the demons, he's going to do exactly what Mildred did, that's the name of the demon, so that he can cancel out her evilness, I guess is his point. The idea is flawed in a million ways, but because of it, we get this nice little analogy from Sean. He basically says that he's putting a copyright strike on Mildred and stealing her revenue or power source. So Sean heads back into the house for one final showdown, and boy, is it an epic showdown. While he was outside, Sean broke his iPad where he could monitor comments and all the cameras. When he gets back inside, after confronting the ghosts a little bit, he makes it back to the safe room and gets another iPad so he can now read the comments where everyone has kind of translated the Latin that he needs for the ritual. He has one last comical fight with Mildred as he's trying to correctly perform this ritual. He eventually gets it right, and then she is summoned back to hell by being consumed by the house and dragged underneath the floors, and then the house like belches after swallowing her. Sean begins celebrating his victory with his fans in the live chat before quickly realizing that he's actually surrounded by the rest of the demons in the house. We see him try to escape from all of them and tries crawling out the door and is met with another demon right at the door, and then the stream is cut short. It just ends. So that's the end of the movie. Please guys, if you only watch one movie from this list, go watch Deadstream. It's well worth the watch. It was surprising how good it is. I loved it just as much on the rewatch. There was so much more to enjoy and catch on the second time around. Go watch the movie for everything that I talked about, but also the little Easter eggs and the attention to detail and the fleshed out story of Death Manor and how it got haunted. People have said that this is a love letter to Evil Dead 2 and Sam Raimi, and I absolutely agree. So if you're a fan of the Evil Dead series, you might get a kick out of this one. I think it's kind of divided on whether you're cheering for Sean or not throughout the whole thing, but I personally was rooting for him the whole time. But I can see for some people in this setting with this kind of character that no matter what, you are irritated by them and annoyed and hope that they die. This movie will be well worth your time. Go watch it now. It's streaming on Shudder. This is another movie that I like so much that I picked up a physical copy. I should be getting the steelbook soon. I don't know if that's a big enough unboxing to warrant a live stream, but I'll at least post pictures on the community tab or over on Threads so that you guys can check that out. Do you enjoy influencer horror like me? I found that it is my comfort horror. I know that even if it's a bad movie, I'll probably have a good time. There were a few movies that I left out of this just because I know it's already going to be a long video, but I'm already strongly considering doing a part 2, and if that would tickle your fancy, let me know by commenting down below and subscribing to the channel. What did you think of these movies? Have you already seen them? Are you adding them to your watch list? I want to know. Merch and live streams are coming soon, so stay tuned, and remember to embrace the fear all year round. And until the next video, stay spooky.